All right, so we're going to go over the anterior shoulder labrum instability. What's pathology behind this? It's basically when the anterior stabilizing muscles increase in laxity, such as your middle GH ligament or the anterior band of your inferior GH ligament. They just increase in laxity. Other things that could contribute to it is basically maybe small tears in your rotator cuff musculature, anything of that nature, just increasing the instability of that shoulder altogether. A prime example of this and the mechanism of injury is basically if it's chronic, it means it's just overuse, maybe like a pitcher continually pitching, having his shoulder abducted and externally rotated all the time just to throw that baseball, overuse, and that could just contribute to those muscles and ligaments to slowly become unstable. Something else like a traumatic anterior instability could be something that happened to me where I had my arm in between a guy's leg when I was wrestling him, and so my shoulder's already abducted, and then for him to lunge forward kind of causes like a passive externally rotating of my shoulder, and it popped my humerus head out of the glenoid fossa, causing basically now shoulder instability, which I still struggle with today. So yeah, basically on an on-field evaluation, maybe in chronic cases you could see deltoid atrophy, just a flattened deltoid could be possible. You might be able to palpate some of the tenderness points of the anterior GH joint. So yeah, something like that. And then you want to get to know the patient's history. When did he or her start feeling this pain? What happened for this pain to arise? So you want to note the patient's history. Then you can go on to tests like the apprehension test. The apprehension test, I'd say the clinician or the physician is going to take the patient and they're going to support their wrist and their elbow, and they're going to externally rotate that patient's arm until maybe pain is perceived from the patient. So yeah, that could be a positive test, or the relocation and surprise test as shown in this diagram over here. The patient is pushing downward on the glenohumeral joint and then externally rotating that arm, and it basically a positive test for relocation is in comparison to the apprehension test if the player basically increases its range of motion. And then the surprise test is you're going to take that hand that's holding that wrist and pushing down for external rotation. You're going to basically just drop both of your hands and see if any pain is elicited from the patient. And if they just kind of go back into place instead of keeping that range of motion that you had during the relocation test. So yeah, yep, that's really it. That's all I can really say about the anterior shoulder instability. So yeah.